In 1944, one of America's deadliest submarines vanished near Japan, leaving behind only fear and unanswered questions. For 79 years, the fate of this decorated predator was a haunting mystery until her corroded hull surfaced deep beneath Hokkaido's waves. What doomed such a formidable vessel, and why did her secrets remain hidden for nearly 8 decades? To find out, we have to start where legends are built, in the shipyards and in the steel, long before disaster struck. On April 21, 1941, the first steel plates for hull number SS-218 were set in place at the Electric Boat Company in Groton, Connecticut. In a yard humming with urgency, welders, riveters, and machinists worked around the clock, forging the backbone of what would become a new breed of submarine. The project moved with wartime speed. By February 17, 1942, the hull slid down the Ways and into the Thames River and was christened USS Albacore, a lean silhouette built for stealth and endurance. She was part of the Gato class, designed to slip past enemy patrols and strike deep into hostile waters. Just over 3 months after launch, on June 1st, 1942, Albacore was commissioned into the United States Navy. The ceremony brought together shipyard workers, naval officers, and the first crew, led by Lieutenant Commander Richard C. Lake. Lake, a career submariner, took command as the deck was still gleaming from its final coat of paint. For the men assigned to her, the boat was more than a machine. It was a promise of action and a test of nerve. From the start, Albacore was shaped by the hands of craftsmen and the vision of her first captain, setting her on a course that would carry her far from the Connecticut shoreline and into the heart of the Pacific War. Albacore stretched 311 feet from bow to stern, her hull just over 27 feet wide. She belonged to the Gato class, a design that balanced power, stealth, and endurance. 4 diesel engines drove electric generators, giving her the ability to run quietly on battery beneath the waves. On the surface, she could reach 21 knots, faster than most of her prey. Submerged, her speed dropped to 9 knots. But silence mattered more than pace in enemy waters. With a range of 11,000 nautical miles at 10 knots, she could cross the Pacific and return without refueling. 10 21-inch torpedo tubes lined her bow and stern, 6 forward and 4 aft, each loaded with the weapons that made her a hunter. A 3-inch deck gun and anti-aircraft mounts gave her a fighting chance on the surface. Inside, every inch was packed tight. 85 men shared 3-tiered bunks stacked along the narrow passageways. The air hung thick with diesel fumes and the constant thrum of machinery. Privacy was a memory. The only relief came from the routine of watch shifts and the rare moment of quiet. Crewmen wrote home about sleeping inches from live torpedoes, about the constant hum of fans, and the ever-present tension of life beneath the surface. In these cramped quarters, a submarine became more than steel and rivets. It became a world unto itself, bound by discipline, routine, and the unspoken trust of men who depended on each other for survival. Albacore's first war patrols began in the vast Pacific, where the line between hunter and hunted was razor thin. Her missions pushed deep into enemy waters, shadowing Japanese convoys, protected by destroyers and aircraft. The sea offered no shelter. Every hour brought the threat of depth charges or sudden attack from above. Patrols could stretch to 75 days, with the crew living in a rhythm of tense silence and sudden action. In these months, the boat's reputation started to grow. Word spread among Allied crews about her uncanny ability to slip through patrol lines, strike with precision, and vanish before the enemy could respond. By the end of 1943, Albacore had completed multiple patrols, each adding to her tally. 11 patrols in total, 10 confirmed enemy ships sunk, including 6 warships. For these feats, she earned 9 battle stars and 4 Presidential Unit citations, the highest honors for valor in submarine service. Crew members, many still in their 20s, became veterans overnight. Their letters home spoke of endless drills, the constant thrum of machinery, and the sharp relief of surfacing after days submerged. But they also wrote of pride, of being part of a boat whose name carried weight across the Pacific. With every success, the risks increased. High Command assigned Albacore to more dangerous waters, closer to Japan's home islands. Each patrol demanded more from the crew, more skill, more nerve, more trust in their boat and each other. Through endurance, discipline, and a streak of luck, Albacore became one of the Navy's most decorated submarines. Her story written in the logbooks of her patrols and the memories of those who served aboard. June 19, 1944. The Philippine Sea churned with the largest carrier battle in history. Beneath the waves, Albacore stalked her prey. A Japanese fleet, led by the brand-new carrier Taiho, pride of Admiral Ozawa's command. Orders were clear: strike at the heart of the enemy, no matter the risk. In the cramped control room, every man on board worked in practiced silence, eyes on gauges, ears tuned to the steady hum of electric motors. At periscope depth, the captain watched Taiho cut through the blue, shielded by a ring of destroyers. The margin for error was razor thin. Albacore's crew calculated the carrier's speed and bearing, adjusting course by degrees. The tension was visceral, each order relayed in clipped, quiet tones. When the moment came, 6 torpedoes launched in succession, leaving a trail of bubbles that vanished into the deep. Seconds ticked by. Then, a muffled detonation echoed through the hull. One torpedo found its mark, piercing Taiho's armored flank. Aviation fuel spilled, vaporized, and ignited below decks. The carrier's fate was sealed not by gunfire, but by a single, well-placed shot from beneath the surface. On deck, the crew of Albacore listened to distant explosions as Taiho burned. Above, the Japanese flagship listed and began to sink, taking hundreds of men and the hopes of a nation with her. For the first time in naval history, a Japanese fleet carrier was destroyed by a submarine. The victory was more than tactical. It sent shockwaves through the Imperial Navy. For their audacity and skill, the men of Albacore received the Navy Cross. Their teamwork and nerve had changed the course of a battle and written their names into the annals of submarine warfare. Orders for Albacore's 11th Patrol arrived on October 24, 1944. This time, command fell to Lieutenant Commander Hugh R. Rimmer, a seasoned officer known for his calm under pressure. The assignment was clear and unforgiving. Patrol the Tsugaru Strait, a narrow passage between Honshu and Hokkaido, where Japanese shipping lanes threaded through a gauntlet of defenses. Intelligence warned of freshly laid minefields and a surge in anti-submarine patrols. Japanese forces, reeling from recent losses, had turned the northern approaches into a labyrinth of danger, with moored contact mines at periscope depth, patrol craft armed with sonar and depth charges, and aircraft circling overhead. Rimmer and his crew left Midway under no illusions. The Tsugaru Strait was a choke point, hemmed in by rocky coastlines and swift currents. Japanese mine layers had seeded the waters with rows of Type 93 contact mines, their positions marked only on secret charts. Patrol logs from Allied intelligence described the area as a death trap. No room to maneuver, no safe passage if detected. The margin for error had narrowed to almost nothing. On board, tension seeped into every routine. Sonar pings echoed from unseen patrol boats, and the crew scanned the surface for the telltale silhouettes of enemy ships. Each dive meant threading a corridor where a single mistake could trigger disaster. Letters home from these final days spoke of sleepless nights and the constant thrum of engines, of men who understood that the odds had turned against them. Rimmer's orders left little choice. Hold position, report enemy movement, and strike if possible. But in these waters, the enemy's greatest weapon was invisible, anchored just below the surface, waiting for a submarine to pass too close. Albacore pressed forward, deeper into waters where every mile carried the weight of risk and the shadow of catastrophe. At 1,000 hours on November 7, 1944, Japanese patrol craft off the Oshima Peninsula recorded a violent explosion. The sea, calm that morning, suddenly heaved. Within minutes, a thick slick of oil spread across the surface, followed by cork bedding and food supplies rising from below. No torpedo wakes cut the water. No enemy vessel appeared. The only trace was silence, broken by the slow drift of debris. Japanese reports from that day captured the moment in a single phrase: a blast, then debris, then nothing. Naval records from both sides later traced the event to the minefields east of Hokkaido. Japanese mine layers, working through October and early November, had seeded the strait with rows of contact mines moored just below the surface. Wartime charts, now cross-checked by historians, showed these fields overlapping the submarine's assigned patrol box. In the strong currents near Oshima, mines could drift from their original positions, creating unseen hazards for any vessel venturing too close. The United States Navy, relying on intercepted signals and post-war Japanese logs, pieced together the likely fate of the Albacore. With no further radio contact and no sign of survivors, the chain of evidence pointed to a sudden, catastrophic loss. By December 21, 1944, the submarine was officially presumed lost. Telegrams bearing the Navy's seal arrived at homes across the country. Each carried the same message: missing, presumed sunk off northern Japan. No remains to recover, no grave to visit, only a name entered into the roll of the lost. For decades, the families and the Navy would have only the facts of that morning: a single explosion, a slick of oil, and the enduring mystery of what lay beneath the waves. May 25, 2022, brought a new kind of search to the waters off Hakodate. Aboard the University of Tokyo's research vessel, Shinsei Maru, Dr. Tamaki Ura and his team set out to scan the seafloor east of the Oshima Peninsula. Their target was a patch of the Tsugaru Strait, long suspected to conceal the fate of a vanished American submarine. Armed with multi-beam sonar, the crew mapped a grid across the suspected minefield, sending thousands of acoustic pulses into the depths. The data returned a long cylindrical shadow, distinct from the scattered wreckage and geological debris that littered the bottom. At a depth of about 250 meters, the shape matched the dimensions of a Gato-class submarine. The team prepared their remotely operated vehicle, or ROV, for a closer look. Lowered into the cold, dark water, the ROV descended through layers of current, its lights piercing the gloom. As the cameras swept across the wreck, key features came into view. The conning tower stood out first, battered but unmistakable. A radar mast of a type fitted only in Albacore's final months jutted from the fairwater. Along the hull, a pattern of vent holes identical to those in the 1944 blueprints provided further confirmation. Each detail was cross-checked against archival records, narrowing the possibilities with each pass. WWII's team documented the site meticulously, recording every angle and measurement. The evidence chain grew stronger. Sonar imaging, visual confirmation, and archival overlays all pointed to the same conclusion. The U.S. Naval History and Heritage Command, reviewing the data, found no other lost submarine in the region with these modifications. The wreck's identity was now beyond reasonable doubt. What began as a faint acoustic trace had become hard proof, linking the silent hull on the seabed to a name remembered for courage and sacrifice. The mystery that had defied generations of searchers was finally yielding to science and persistence. On February 16, 2023, the U.S. Naval History and Heritage Command released its official statement. The submarine found off Hokkaido, resting in roughly 250 meters of water, was confirmed as USS Albacore. This conclusion came after months of forensic analysis. Maritime archaeologists and naval engineers compared every detail, vent holes, radar mast, and hull dimensions against wartime blueprints and shipyard records. The evidence left little doubt. But the cause of her loss, while strongly supported by physical and historical data, remains a matter of informed probability. A senior Naval History and Heritage Command analyst explains that the hull breach visible in remotely operated vehicle footage is consistent with the effects of a Japanese contact mine. The damage is localized, with plating bent outward at a single point forward of the conning tower. Blast modeling and ordnance expertise indicate that only a mine, packed with over 200 kilograms of TNT, could produce such a rapid, catastrophic rupture. The location of the wreck, directly within the wartime minefields, charted by both Japanese and Allied sources, adds weight to this assessment. Yet, as one maritime archaeologist notes, the currents in the Tsugaru Strait could shift mines from their original positions, and the murky water limits the certainty of any single cause. No eyewitness survived, and no direct evidence remains beyond the scarred steel and a decades-old Japanese patrol report, a blast, then debris, then nothing. For families of the lost, the confirmation is both an answer and a wound reopened. Many spent lifetimes with only a telegram and unanswered questions. Now, with the site officially recognized as a U.S. war grave, The wreck is protected by law. No salvage, no disturbance. A family representative, voice steady but raw, speaks of closure. We never had a grave to visit. Now we have a place to remember. The story of Albacore's end is not just a technical puzzle. It is a reminder of the risks faced by her crew, the limits of wartime knowledge, and the enduring need to honor those who never came home. In today's oceans, over 50 United States submarines remain missing from World War II, still unaccounted for, their stories unresolved. Each discovery, like Albacore's, is more than history reclaimed. It's a reminder that the search for truth and closure never truly ends. What lies beneath shapes how we remember and how we honor sacrifice, both now and for every generation that follows.